Good morning, children. Welcome to our first interactive class. So today we'll be discussing the chapter on algorithm and flowchart. Chapter 4, algorithm and flowchart. Now, in this session, we'll be discussing about the introduction to the algorithm. What is algorithm? Steps to develop an algorithm and how to write an algorithm. Okay. Now, as we know that to accomplish our daily activities properly, we utilize our problem-solving skill, which involves identifying the problem, finding the possible solutions, selecting the best solution, and then implementing it. This step-by-step approach gives us the desired output. Now, here, let us take an example of getting ready to the school and let us write the sequence. When the alarm rings, turn it off. So in the morning when we wake up, we sometimes use the alarm also. So the step of getting ready to school. So output is that we need to be ready to come to school. So we get up, then we brush our teeth, then we take shower also, and we get dressed in school uniform, take the breakfast, and we come to the school. Okay, so these are the steps. So in order to come to the school, we have to follow this step. The step by step. Now, the algorithm is a detailed step by step procedure used to solve the certain problem. So step-by-step procedure to solve the certain problem is the algorithm. So each and every problem needs to be solved in a sequence, in a sequential order, so that we will reach the output. Now, in the same way, you can also create the algorithm to run a task or a program in the computer. So we know that computer takes instruction from the user, and the instructions which is to be given to the computer is done step by step with the help of the program. So this step by step process is the program. The types of sequential instructions which are written in the computer to perform a specific task are called programs. These programs are written to help you to solve the simple and complex problems. So problem solving. So this program, this algorithm is used in order to solve the problems. So computers are there to solve the different problems. So algorithm is the first step of writing the problem solving process. So when we give the instruction to the computer, we need to ensure that the steps are in the correct order. So the order of the steps should not be in the random. It should be in a sequential form, in a proper sequence, 1, 2, 3, 4, so that if we follow that, we will reach to a goal. Once the algorithm is created and it produces a desired output, it will help you to understand the pattern, recognize the pattern in an algorithm. This will make it easier for you to solve the similar problem by using the predefined solution. So we say that algorithm is the first step of writing the computer program. So if you are good in writing an algorithm, the stepwise procedure, then it will be easy for you to convert that particular algorithm to any of the programming language, whether it's a Java, whether it's a C++, whether it's a QBasic, depending upon your choice, you can just convert the algorithm to the programming language and write the program. Okay, so there are some features of programming. Okay, so the features that are required to write an algorithm are described below. Input. So input means a sequence of steps given as inputs to the computer. These steps contains values or quantities for the actions to be performed. So we need to give the input. So all the algorithm needs to have an input. Definiteness. An algorithm accepts an input and it should be definite. That means it should be stable and precise so that everyone can understand. So it needs to be, third characteristic is definiteness. That means finite. That means each instruction should be well defined and clear so that it is easily understood. Then it should have a finiteness. Finite, it involves the finite number of steps to read the one. Then uniqueness. Each step should be different from the previous steps and the output should be linked to the previous steps. So it should be uniquely identified. The last one is the output. So the output, there should be the desired result. Whatever result we need to get, that needs to be there. So the characteristics of algorithms are input, definiteness, determinant, uniqueness and output. So these are some of the characteristics of algorithm. Okay. Now let us come to the step to develop an algorithm. So the steps, now if I have to write the algorithm, what are the steps which I need to follow? So a set of instruction can be used to solve the problems or complete a task. The development of an algorithm is a significant steps in solving a problem. After creating an algorithm, you can convert it into the language that you can understand by the computer. So language which you can understand, that means computer language. Any of the programming language you can convert that algorithm and run in the machine. Now let us understand the steps to develop an algorithm. Step 1. Define your algorithm input. The data which has to be processed is a set of input for an algorithm. For example, you can provide the rectangular height and width as an input for the algorithm to calculate the perimeter of the rectangle. Perimeter of the rectangle needs to be calculated. For that, we need to have an input. So the two inputs is required. So if you have to calculate the perimeter of this particular room, we need to take the rectangle, this one, and breadth. So width and height is the input. So define your algorithm. The first steps of writing an algorithm, that means you need to define the algorithm input. Second step is that you need to define the variable. Like in algebra. In algebra, we initialize the value x equals to 10, y equals to 20. Likewise, while writing the algorithm also, we need to define the variable which holds the value. Okay. So here, we need to have two variables. If I have to find the perimeter of the rectangle, I need to have the two variables, that is the height and the width. So, and we need to ensure that whenever we are writing the variable, it should be meaningful, because it will be difficult for us to understand afterwards when we read the program. So algorithm is to be written in a simple language so that everybody can read and understand. The third step, step 3, outline the algorithm operation. Now you have written the algorithm. Now you need to outline what are the process, what are the things you have to do with that particular algorithm. Now here, if I have to take the parameter, what is the process I have to do to get the parameter? That means I need to add that height and width, then multiplied by 2, then I'll get the parameter. So that process needs to be described in the algorithm. So an outline can be defined to perform the computation on the input variable. An algorithm can have the multiple steps and branches to complete the computation task. These tasks depends on the value of inputs variable. For example, for computing the perimeter of the rectangle, you have to add the values of height and width and multiply it by 2. So you can define the new variable named parameters to store the output. So whatever result comes, that needs to be stored in the another variable. So we need to have a variable which can store the result also. Now step 4. The fourth step of developing an algorithm is output the result of your algorithm operation. Now the output is very important. Writing an algorithm means as in the characteristic we have learned, it should have an input and we need to get the output. So if we write the algorithm for which we will not get the output, then that algorithm is wrong. The sequence of steps, once you follow the sequence of step, then you need to get the result of that. Okay? So, like brushing the teeth. So when we brush the teeth, our mouth should be fresh, isn't it? That is the last step, isn't it? When you follow the sequence, that output will be there. Here also, similarly, when we are calculating the perimeter, everything should be, we need to get the perimeter of the rectangle. Okay? So this is how we can develop an algorithm. Now the last part of this particular session is how to write an algorithm. There are the rules which we need to follow while writing the algorithm. An algorithm is used to perform the basic operations on the data. These operations are addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It can also be used to organize and store the data. So algorithm can be written to organize and store the data also. In order to get the required output from the algorithm should be created and without any error in it. While writing an algorithm, certain rules are to be followed. These rules are given below. So I'll just read the rules which are there in order to write the algorithm. So rule 1, an algorithm is always written in the English language. It should be written in the simple English language. An algorithm contains the use of simple language so that it is easy for everyone to understand. So it should be in a simple, short, precise manner so that when I write an algorithm and give to another programmer, he need to understand each and everything very simply, very clearly. Okay, so it should not be complex. Short and sweet in language should be used. An algorithm must have an input in the form of variables. So input should be there. What are the inputs? We need to specify, we need to mention the input of the algorithm. The step in an algorithm have to be written in a sequential order. So step-by-step procedure to solve the problem is called algorithm. So the sequence needs to be followed. The steps in an algorithm can be divided in such a manner that there is only one instruction in a step. So one instruction per steps, should not be more than one. An algorithm contains mathematical formula which are used for calculation. So we can use mathematical formulas in the algorithm. Each step should be completed within the set time limit. So time limits it should be there. Step 1, step 2. The times, it's not very long as a paragraph. It's a short one sentence step should be there. Very short. Each step should be completed within the set time limit. Always perform a dry run to check whether the algorithm is written correctly. So once you finish writing the algorithm, you just have to see. When you read that algorithm also, you need to find out that whether that particular steps will lead to the output or not. Okay? Now, an algorithm should produce a desired result. So, if your algorithm will not take you to any output, then your algorithm is incorrect. So, there are few examples in your book for writing an algorithm. Few examples are given below for better understanding and writing an algorithm. So, you can go through this from your book. So in my next class, I will be giving you the PDF version of this particular chapter exercise. I hope I have given the PDF version of some exercises from this chapter also. More exercise I will be giving in my PDF, in my offline class. And I want you to go through this algorithm and prepare yourself. Thank you very much. Stay safe.